In lookup functions we covered VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, let's say index and match, offset and match. Okay. ठीक है. We are left with XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP and choose. These two are we are left with. Let's see that. Okay. Okay. Let me get the data set again from this. You guys were able to do this one and this one as an homework, index and offset. Done or not? Was this done as a homework or not? Index and match, offset and match. Guys say yes or no at least. Online guys? Whatever I gave as a homework, was that part done or not? Guys, that this was a very, it was like it would have hardly taken 5 minutes to complete this, right? Again, you guys are going to complete this. Let's look up. So let's say I have this table. Again, let me copy this. Yeah. And if I so XLOOKUP is having the most easy syntax when it comes to get the data or fetching. So I'll say XLOOKUP, lookup value. So let me write the criteria also over there. Then it makes sense. Let's say criteria. So my criteria is that based on Delhi cities, like city, let's say Ahmedabad. I want to get city code. Right? So this is my criteria. What I will do is I will say XLOOKUP, lookup value is Ahmedabad, lookup array. What is my lookup array? Cities, where I'm going to look for this criteria. This is criteria. What is lookup array? Criteria range. This is my criteria range. Now next argument is return array. Up index and match mode, offset and match, we used to use match function to get the column name, your column number basically, right? Here you have to pass the array from which column you want the output. So let's say I want the output from city code. So this is my return array. And this is one of the reasons that it cannot be dynamic because my range change nahi hogi na yahan pe. Index and match were dynamic, offset and match were dynamic. As I was changing the column names from the drop down, my value was getting changed. But here pe wo scene nahi hoga because my return array is fixed. I'm passing a range over here. Right? Then, if not found, what value you'd like to give? Let's say by default I would like to give NA in double quotes, and let it be this much only for now. Let's say, okay, done. So I am getting what C1 for the Ahmedabad. So iska syntax is that easy. You just need to give the lookup value, criteria range, and return array range. Okay, let's explore some more arguments of this. So if I say, let's say XLOOKUP, again, this is my lookup value. This is my lookup array, cities. My return array is city code, let's say state this time. State. And if not found, return NA. Then it is saying match mode. What type of match I want? By default, it is exact. So this exact match or next smaller item, exact match or next larger item, these are for continuous. Like if you have numeric lookup range, for that you can use this -1 or 1. Okay? Then the second value is for wildcard character match. If you have any wildcard character which you want to match, for that you can use 2. Begins with, ends with, contains. So that's what wildcard character match is. Okay? So let's say exact match, which is 0. Then whether you want to search from first to last or last to first. That is 1 and -1 will decide. Then you have binary search. So I'll discuss what binary search is. Let's say I want to search from first to last. So I will say 1. By default, it is first to last only. So these are the arguments of the XLOOKUP. Gujarat. Clear with this part?
Array city code state दोनों select करो.
Array,
First time
no, it will be incorrect. It will take one dimensional only. Whatever your criteria, that will be lookup array. Okay? It won't take the entire table. It will only take one dimensional arrays. So this is my lookup array. This is my return array state. Yes, these all are what? Index and match, offset and match, XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP and choose. These are reverse lookup functions. So they overcome the limitations of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. Okay. So this one has the easiest syntax to go with XLOOKUP. Any doubt in the XLOOKUP part? Online guys, any query regarding the XLOOKUP part?
Yeah, sir, one query. Hello.
Yeah, Bhavna.
Yeah, sir. So since the syntax of XLOOKUP function is simpler than VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, so why don't we prefer to use XLOOKUP in that case? Because it just needs one-dimensional array from which we need the data.
Yeah. So you can use XLOOKUP wherever it is needed, but you cannot make it dynamic. For example, if I apply data validation over here, and if I change my let's say criteria from not criteria, let's say if I change my this output from city code to let's say population, right? So still I'll get the city code over here because my range is fixed. I have given the return array as what? City code. But if you want to make it dynamic, then you have to go with index and match or offset and match. Then you cannot use XLOOKUP.
Got it. Yeah, thanks, sir. But it's better than VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, you need to know the limitations of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP.
Right. For which we prefer to use offset and index.
Yes.
Okay.
Then we have, so to overcome the limitation of VLOOKUP, we have again one more reverse lookup function, which is VLOOKUP and choose, right? Now understand what this choose function does. Okay. So what I will do over here, let's say, let me write choose. Again, let me copy this. Now what will happen over here is I will write choose. Okay? Choose, and it is saying index number. Abhi main koi index number yahan pe pass nahi karunga. What I will do is now I will skip it by putting comma. Now it is asking me value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4. These all are ranges. Okay? So this is my value 1, this range, value 2, value 3, and then value 4. Here in curly brackets in the index number, you need to give the index which value you want to keep at the first position, which value you want to keep at the second position or at the last position. So this is my column 1. Let's say my lookup value is cities, right? So this is my value 3. This one, value 3. So I will say 3 should be kept first. Then 1, 2, and then 4th. That is whatever value I've selected. Value 3 I'm keeping first. Then value 1 at second position, value 2 at third position, and value 4 at fourth position. That is population is as it is. And then cities is at the first position, city code is at the second position, and state is at the third position. Isn't that clear? If I do that, see.
Can you just repeat again?
Yeah, I'll repeat. What I have done, I have just rearranged my columns. So if I'm using VLOOKUP and my lookup value column is not the leftmost column, I can basically use the choose function and rearrange my columns. Clear? See.
Okay.
Here I have given value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4. Okay? Now this is value 3. So 3 should be what? At the first position. So I've kept 3 at the indexing 3 at the first position. Clear? So this is nothing, just rearrangement of columns. Because if my VLOOKUP has a limitation that your lookup value should be the leftmost column. Correct? So what I have done is I have just rearranged my data over here. This is what choose function is doing.
So apart from offset, all the methods are starting from 1 to 3.
Yes. Clear? Online guys, clear? Now understand, see when I click over here, I won't be able to copy this value, right? Because this is the output which I'm getting based on this function, which is only this particular cell. Okay. Now, let's say my criteria is, again, let's say Mumbai. I'm taking my criteria as Mumbai. And in the output, I want the city code. Okay. So I will say VLOOKUP. What is my lookup value? Mumbai. What is my table array?
The cities and population.
Cities and population, but I want the city code in the output. City is my lookup value. My output should have city code. This is not a data set, but this is not a data set. This is the output of a function which I'm getting. So simply, I want this to be the table array.
Right? Choose.
Correct. We can use choose. So I will say choose. यहाँ पे and then index number I'll give later. Then let's say this is my value 1, comma, value 2, comma, value 3, and I can say value 4. Okay. Now I can give the indexing. So I want to give city as the first. So third value should be at the first, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So I have kept 4 at the last. That means second at the third position. So second column will be at the third position. Value 2. This is my value 2. This will be at the third position. So state will be at the third position, right? Then yeah, choose function, close it down, comma, right. Now, what I want, what will be the column index number if I want city code?
Yes.
2.
Correct. My column index number will be 2 because now whatever output I get of the choose function, my first column is what? Third column. So third column value 3 is my first column. So cities is my first column, and my first column is my second column now because position change कर दिया ना मैंने output में. So what will I get over here? 2, and I will close it. What else we have? Exact match 0. And done. So I've got the city code. मुंबई का city code क्या है? C1.
इस केस में हमेशा जो इंडेक्सिंग नंबर है उसी से लेगा जो कॉलम नंबर है
कौन सा कॉलम नंबर?
जब जो 2 सिलेक्ट किया हमने
यहाँ पे
हां वो उसके बेसिस पे
करेक्ट.
ये नहीं कि हमने सिटी कोड 4 टेबल के बेसिस पे
नहीं नहीं, इस चूज फंक्शन का जो आउटपुट आएगा, ये जो आपने रीअरेंजमेंट किया है ना, इसमें से सेकंड कॉलम कौन सा है? 1 वाला, विच इज व्हाट? सिटी कोड. सो दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव ओवर हियर. Clear? Nothing, just rearrangement of the data. Get the lookup value in the leftmost column and good to go. Can do over here. Let's say this is city code, right? Let me apply a data validation in this cell. Data on data validation list, and this is my source.
choose dynamic
Yeah, we can, but provided that we should have only for a single, the column should be the leftmost. So I will say यहाँ पे, let me select.
one cell can be your data validation, not multiple. Just like we did previously top bottom. If you're using top,
Hmm.
so you're getting selection values from bottom.
Hmm.
So like in the criteria itself, we choose apart from the Pune variable.
Yeah, it will change. It will change for this also because we have taken the reference of this cell. Let's say this is the code I had, right? It as it is for now. Let's understand how choose function will work in case of columns. So I will say choose, and index number I'll give later. Value 1, value 2, value 3, value 4. So let's say value 1, comma value 2, comma value 3, and this is my value 4. Okay. Now I can give the index number as per this one. So I can say 3, comma 1, comma 2, comma 4. What I can do is, I've applied a validation. Let me now further, let's see what I can do. I can say match. What is my lookup value? City code. My lookup array is this, let's say, and match type exact match 0.
So the choose की है ना तो आपने choose वाली आप ले थोड़ी
I was trying that. Let me take choose over here. So I'll say choose, and index number again I will say 3, comma 1, comma 2, comma 4. Close it down, and I will take the values. So values is city code, comma state, comma cities, comma population, and exact match. So city code की position क्या है? 2 है. What is the position of state? 3. Population की 4. Cities की 1. So it is correct now. I can simply just copy this, and what I can do is copy, and over here instead of 2, I can write this match function. So I'm getting Mumbai. If I change it to state, I'm getting Maharashtra. If I'm getting 1 population, then right?
No,
No,
Mumbai से पुणे तक
यहाँ पे, so it's the reference we have taken, so that will change. Obviously, that will change. So just the key trick is that you need to remember whatever your order of the table is after the choose function you have applied, you should have the same order in the match function also, like when you're choosing the column names. Clear? So this is how you can make VLOOKUP and choose also dynamic.
So going to like take choose with the VLOOKUP.
Yeah, you can. You can take choose with the VLOOKUP. Yeah.
That's a काम कहाँ आता है जब हमारा काम mostly VLOOKUP और math से हो जाएगा.
It can be done, but again, interview questions, interview perspective.
कभी perspective भी मतलब professional use में कहीं मतलब apart from कि ना हम all of a sudden उसको rearrange कर लेंगे. Rearrange करके
So if you know index and match, offset and match, good to go. Yeah. Because still we have a limitation over here. I cannot change my criteria over here dynamically, right? Which I can do with which I can do with index and match and offset and match.
So मेरे previous job में मैंने सिर्फ VLOOKUP use किया, उसमें choose the match use.
We have a limitation over here. Still, the limitation is for the criteria, right? But again, interview perspective, you need to know all of these things, how you can make these things dynamic, and what are the limitations. Okay. Online guys, any doubt till this point in the VLOOKUP and choose an XLOOKUP? So here, if you see, I haven't freezed anything, the range, the values. So when you are using it on a data set, you need to freeze accordingly. Whatever you have taken in the choose function, obviously that needs to be freezed, and whatever ranges you have taken, that needs to be freezed. Ankur, I've already written the limitation of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP in the last class. Okay. क्या हो गया? Guys, clear till this point? So we are done with XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, and choose also. Okay. Consolidation. Can I do this thing using XLOOKUP? Let's say if I try, I say XLOOKUP, lookup value, lookup array, return array. Again, one more limitation over here. Can you apply this XLOOKUP on a cross tab? Like if you want to create a summary, so your dates are at the row level, and your company is at the, each company is what? Yanko. Each company is what? A column itself. So I have two criteria to look into. I have two lookup values to look into. Right? The problem with XLOOKUP is what? The return array. Right? And lookup array. So my lookup value, I am not able to give multiple lookup values over here. Can I? I am saying ki if you check what was the advantage with index and match? Ki I had a row argument and I had a column argument. Right? So at the row level, I will match the dates. At the column level, I will match the companies. But in case of XLOOKUP, I just have a lookup value and the lookup array and the return array. So I can only pass one of the lookup values. Date and company. Then also, what is your lookup array? That is the problem, ideally. Not possible. Then you have to convert this into a long table format. It's a very hectic task. Right? Okay. So just do it with index and match and offset and match. That's one of the other limitations, that's not possible to create a cross tab report using XLOOKUP. Okay. So I told you that one thing we have is so we have something which is known as binary search in XLOOKUP. Just for understanding purpose, I'm explaining this. So this is just one of the search functionality, like you search from first to last, last to first, right? Then there's another search option in XLOOKUP we have, which is binary search. Okay. Just give me 1 second. So when I did XLOOKUP, see XLOOKUP, So if you check, we have some binary search option. We have some search options. Whether you want to search from first to order or binary search in descending order. So I'm just explaining what binary search is. Okay. So let's say binary search in ascending order we are doing, right? And this is only for a continuous lookup value, binary search, not for categorical or text. Okay. Now understand this. Let's say there's a value 10 which you want to search in a lookup array range. Let's happen is first what it will do is it will first sort the data in ascending order. If I'm doing binary search ascending order, if I'm doing binary search descending order, it will sort the data in descending order. So I'm let's say doing binary search ascending order. This is my lookup array. This is sorted in ascending order. I want to look for value 10 in this array, right? What it will do is after sorting in ascending order, it will find the middle value. Okay, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 divided by 2. What's the middle value? 6. So 7 is my middle value. 7 is my middle value. Now I will check whether my value 10 is less than 7 or greater than 7. Greater than 7. So that means I need to look on the right hand side of the 7. So that means that this area is gone now. I won't be searching in this area. I'll be searching only in this portion. Yeah, it's a repeated iterative process. Now, see, now what I will do is next thing is I just need to search from the right hand side of the 7. So 1, 6 divided by 2, 3. So this 14. 14 is my middle value. Now I will check whether my value 10 is less than 14 or greater than 14. Less than 14. So I need to check on this side of 14. So this is gone. So now I only need to check in this window. So I have two elements over here. Which one? 8 and 10. So I need to check into this window, right? Now I will check first 1 and 2. 2 divided by 2. What's the middle value? 1. First position, that is 8. I will check whether 8 is greater than 10 or less than 10. Sorry. 10 is greater than 8 or less than 8. That means I'm just left with this 10 thing, and it is the start, middle, and last value. So this is how binary search is working in the backend. Answer is basically it is giving me this. I would say this is the how it is searching in the backend. Like for example, अगर आप search करोगे, let's say you're searching for 61 and you are saying first to last, ठीक है? तो it will check for each value कि ये 61 है, 61 है, 61 है, 61 है, 61 है, 61 है, ऐसा, right? तो टाइम कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी वाला पार्ट आ जाता है यहाँ पे. बट अगर आप लास्ट से सर्च कर रहे हो तो आपको स्टार्टिंग में 61 मिल जाएगा. आप बाइनरी सर्च कर रहे हो तो ये वाला पोर्शन तो वैसे ही चला गया. देन इट विल चेक फर्दर डिवाइड, कोई मिडिल वैल्यू आएगी, ये वाला पोर्शन फिर से चला गया. सो जस्ट अ सेवर इन टाइम कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी, लाइक इन सम केसेस डिपेंड. So I'm just letting you understand what is binary search, how it searches in the backend. It's just one of the, you don't need to code this thing. It's a functionality already available in XLOOKUP if you want to do binary search, and it's only for continuous variables or lookup array. So you just need to say 2 or minus 2. 2 means binary search in ascending order like we did, and minus 2 means binary search in descending order. Now, if you have understood the (13, 12) like this is my data set. My question is of get the first 3 months in the output. कैसे करेंगे? VLOOKUP. I'm saying I need this in the output. How will I do it? Whenever you want to make things dynamic, you'll be using offset. Okay. Now, I want first 3 months. I will say offset. Reference. Is my data size fixed? No. More data can be added. So reference. Rows. Rows की indexing कहाँ से start होती है? 0. Do I want to start from 0? No. I want Jan. I want to start from Jan. Right? 1. Which column I want? Months. So 0. Now we have two optional arguments, height and width. Height we will use when we have vertical data. Width we will use when we have horizontal data. Okay? Height. Starting from 1, how many values I need? 3. Done. Clear? Okay. Now question, let me change the question. Get the average sales of first 3 months. Then how will I go about it? So I'll say offset, reference, rows what? 1. I want to start from Jan. Column 0. 1. If I take 0, can I take average of Jan, Feb, and March? No, I will take average of these, right? So 0 and 1. Sales is 1. Height 3. Done. So I have the sales of Jan, Feb, and March. What I want to do? Average. So I will put this in the average function. This is giving me the average of the average sales of the first 3 months. Clear? Now I am saying get the last 3 months. टू से स्टार्ट होगी तो मैं यहाँ पे आगे ऐड कर दूंगा फिर. How can I get the last 3 months? ठीक है, I will use offset. Let's say offset. This is my reference. Now rows. Sorry. Yeah. Which function counts only the text values? See, I want to start from what? April, right? So I will say 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I say 4 and column is 0, what will I get in the output? I will get March. I will get April, right? I want to get last 3 months. So 4, and in the height argument, since it's a vertical data, I will say -3. From the April, go to basically jump towards the upward side. Then I got the last 3 months. But is it dynamic? No, it's static. Right? How it's static? If I add May, it is still same. Add it should give me May, April, and March. So how can I make it dynamic? I can make it dynamic if my number, this number 4, which is row number, changes dynamically. How match? Now, which function counts the text value and does not count the blanks? Count it. So if I use count over here, so I will say यहाँ पे equals to offset. Reference is this. Now rows, I will say count A and count A, and I will give this entire range. Right? Close it. This will return me what? 4 F9 5 months से start हुआ है तो. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, right? So what I need to do? Since I've selected the headers, I have to subtract -1 because April is what? 4. Okay. Offset की indexing 0 से start होती है. So I will say -1, comma 0. Comma 0, and I need to add the height argument also, which is what? -3 from the last position. So I have got Feb, March, and April. Now if I add May, I will get what? May, April, and March. See? We have fixed our range. I can take my entire column as my range. It is dynamic because it is getting changed. It is not getting changed even if I add May. If I remove it, it will still back to the same thing. Clear? So you can make it dynamic using counting, because count will counts what? Numeric and text, and does not count the blanks. So first try doing it statically. See which number I can change using functions which make it dynamic, which makes that particular process dynamic. Okay. Now again, next question. Get the average sales for the last 3 months. Tell me. Equals to offset. This is my reference. Now what? Now what? Count it, because I need to count the number of rows. -1, comma 0, not comma 0, comma 1, and -3. 3 months. So sales of the last 3 months. And now I can take the average of it. This will return me the average sales of the last 3 months. So this average will change if I add something, let's say May, and this is 12. If I remove it, it will back to the same thing. Because I've selected headers. and count A counts start from 1. Okay. In offset, the indexing starts from 0. That is why. If I am not selecting headers, if I'm starting from Jan, let's say my reference point is Jan, then you don't have to subtract 1. Sorry, my reference point is month, and in the count A, if my range is starting from Jan, then we don't have to subtract -1. We discussed this thing, right? 0, 1, 2. अगर मैं Jan से start कर रहा हूँ, तो count function क्या return करेगा? इसकी indexing क्या होगी? 1. की indexing क्या होगी? ये count क्या होगा? 2. So when I'm selecting the headers, I have to subtract -1 to match with the offset indexing. But if I'm selecting the range without the headers, then it is automatically matching with the index, or sorry, automatically matching with the offset range, offset indexing. Yeah. Till now, I just know the offset, which has the indexing starts from 0. So yeah. Then the next thing we have is named ranges. Nothing, just names given to the ranges. पहले आप क्या करते थे? Let's say you have some sales, right? Let's say you have a sales column, some values you have 10, 20, 23, 34, some values you are having 12. Now, अगर आपको उसका sum लेना है, what you will do is you will take sum of it, and you will take the, let's say, the range, correct? And you'll do it 97. If you go to next sheet, if I want to take the sum of it, I again have to do the same thing. So I will say my range and enter, right? But let's say they are ranges which are using very frequently, right? Very big ranges which are using very frequently. So what you can do is you can give names to these ranges. So then you just need to call out the names. You don't have to even select the range. Okay. So let's say if I select this range and I go to this formula tab, I have a name manager over here. I will say new, and I will define the range for this. So the range name be, let's say, sales. Okay? Now you need to decide the scope. The scope is at the sheet level or at the workbook level. So I'm saying the scope is for the entire workbook. That means I can use this range, sales underscore, let's say range. I'm giving the name. Okay? So I can use this named range across the entire workbook, and I will say done. So this range is now created. Close. Okay? Now if I take sum of it, sum, I don't need to select the range. I can simply give the name as sales. You are able to see the name, sales range. You don't even, because since I've decided the scope of the workbook, scope as the workbook, I can even over here don't have to go back to the previous sheet and select the range. I can simply say sum of sales underscore range. It will show you the suggestions. Done. Clear? Okay. But this range is not, I will say, what range over here is, let's say, again, let me take the example of that same example. Let's say I'm taking month and sales. Okay? And I am saying Jan, Feb, March. And sales will, let's say, 12, 30. I have the sales. Formula tab, name manager, let me say new, and month underscore range. Workbook is the scope, done. Then similarly, sales also, data, and I will say formula tab, name manager, and I will say new sales underscore R. Let's say this is the name of this range. Okay? Done. So these two named ranges are created now. What I will do is now I will create a blank chart. Okay? So insert, and I will insert a blank chart. Now I will say right click and I will select my data. Okay? Now I will add my series named ranges. So my series, whatever the series name you want to give, let's say I'm giving the name as month, and select the sheet name, sheet 1, and the name of the range that you have given. So it is month underscore range. Okay, added. I will add one more, which is for the sales. So I will give the name as sales, and I will give the range as sheet name, and then so it is sales underscore R. Done. You're not able to see anything for the one, so probably I need to change my range. It should start from Jan and not from month, right? So again, I'll go to this formula tab, name manager, and I will say month range, right? Edit. I will edit this. So from 137, I will instead of 137, I will start from 138. Done. And similarly for the sales underscore R, edit. Instead of 137, start from 138. Close. Right. Now it's correct. Okay. I need to also add the labels. I have added my data, 2 variables, but I need to also add my labels, right? So again, select data. यहाँ पे I will say add it because this is my access label range. So I will say add it, and here access label range. So I will give the name as, let's say, sheet 1 and month underscore range. Has all the labels. Okay. Right? My chart is created. So if I add April, I'm able to see April. And if I add 16, let's say I'm able to see the bar for the April. Now my question is it dynamic? When I'm adding data, the bar is getting added. When I'm deleting data, my bar is getting deleted. So is it dynamic? No, it is not. I have a lot of extra spaces over here. So imagine if I select the entire column, the amount of extra spaces I'm going to have for each of the bar. It is not adjusting the bar, right? Ideally, I should not have this extra space. Yes or no? So if I remove April, see, I don't want that. So it's static. So this is what? Static named range. Clear? Range. So if I remove, so I have these many cells selected. So this is the amount of space it is taking extra. So whichever cells are not filled, that much extra space is taken. So imagine if I select the entire column, how so that this is what static named range, and this is how the static chart is created using the named range. Now let's make it dynamic. Okay. Let me copy the same thing. How can I make it dynamic? How can I make it dynamic? We can. Sorry, I'm not able to hear. Range to a table? Yes, that is one of the way. Now, yeah, we'll do that. That's the very of the simplest way. Let's say if you don't have that option, then we can use offset function. So let's say if I use offset function over here, if I say offset, what is my reference? Month, comma. Column is what? 0. Height. What's the height? My height has to be dynamic, right? Count A. Good. Earlier we used count A in the rows. Now we will use count A in the height. So I will say count A. Change this much and done. Right? So I told you height we will use when we have vertical data, width we will use when we have horizontal data. Right? This is my, I can even change the reference over here. Okay? I can start from over here. So as per this reference, my rows will be what? 1. Start from first row. What will be the column? 1, 0. Because I have changed my reference now. For this range, I have changed my reference. If I'm taking my reference as month, then my column will be 1. But for now, it will be 0. Height, count A, and done. Okay? So what will I do now? Let me just copy this thing. Let me make the selection. Not needed. Formula tab, name manager. Then I will say new. And here I will write my formula. Okay? Control V. Done. I've written my formula. So and I will change the name to, let's say, month underscore dy, which is dynamic. Added. Now I will add one more range, which is sales. And formula name manager, new. I will add this formula over here. And I will say sales underscore dy. Scope is workbook. Done. So let's say if I add something over here, it is getting reflected. Right? Okay. Now let me insert a blank chart again. So I will insert a blank chart. I will add the data. I will add the series, x-axis and y-axis series. So right click, select data, add. So I will add first series name be, let's say, months, and series values. So I will select for the series value sheet name. Then what? Month underscore dy is the name of the range. What happened? I'm giving the reference. Yeah, you can work without it also. It should work. Then what is the issue? There's an error in the formula you entered. Dy, that's good. Don't copy it over here, offset. My reference is month, and row is 1, column is 0, and count A. And this is my range. Close the bracket for the count A, close the bracket for the offset. Month underscore dy, sales underscore dy. Let's see that. This is also the same issue. So I will say offset. Reference is sales. Row is 1, column is 0, and count A. And done. Good to go. Select data. Add. Series name be, let's say, months, and I can month underscore dy. Some is the issue with that. Here's 6. So if I select over here, goes to month underscore dy, this is working correctly. Okay, let me check sheet reference, sheet 1, month underscore dy. Yeah. So it is returning error without the sheet reference. In which sheet you are getting the chart, take the reference. In basically in which sheet you are using the range. So for that, you need to give the reference in creating the charts, not in any function specifically. Okay? Add and I will say sales and so sheet reference over here and sales underscore dy. So I have added my both series. I will now basically edit my x-axis labels. So I will say sheet 1 and month underscore on the x-axis and done. Okay. So now if you check, there's no extra space which is being taken. And this is the dynamic chart. Can you see any extra space taken over here? So if I add April, let's say 12. Right? If I add May and 20, it has adjusted accordingly. No extra spaces you can see. So in this case, you can even select the entire column. So this is what dynamic. We have seen two types of named ranges, static and dynamic. How you can make it dynamic using the offset function and using the ith argument or bit argument. Okay. Guys, clear with the named ranges part? This is nothing but giving names to the ranges. Yep. So this is static. It has extra space. It has no extra space. It is adjusting the space as per the values inserted. Now, online guys, any queries regarding this part? Yeah. A specific range means what? And it's a specific range. You can use the entire column. Just to explain the concept, I've taken this much values. So you can take the entire column if your value is starting from, let's say, 1, 2, 3. The other way of this is, let's say, simply what I can do is, if I want dynamic charts, yes, Imanshu. So if I want to create another again charts, what I can do, I can declare this as a table. Insert option may you have a table option, so declare this as a table. And my table has headers. Yes, I have checked this option. Done. Right. Now what I will do, I will select this and I will insert a chart. Some chart. Sorry, my bad. 1 second. So this is what my selection is, and I will insert this as a table. Whichever row I'm having the values, I will select that and I will convert that into a table. Right. Okay. Now using the selection, I will insert a chart. Now if I add values further, May, April, and 12, then again I've written April, June, July, August, and I can give the value. You can see it is getting adjusted. Right. So this is one of the, if you want to create dynamic charts, then table is also one of the options that you have. Because this is also one of the dynamic range, because when you go to data tab, formula tab, name manager, you'll be able to see this table 2, which is what? Having the values. Dynamic range. Okay. Okay. So you have seen ranges, named ranges, static and dynamic. Now we have data validation, which is also static and dynamic. Again, let's say I want to create a data validation, list validation for the months or for the years, right? So let's say I have year column, 2017, 2018, 2019. Okay? This is my range. What I can do is I can simply select this. Let's say this is what? Static. So data validation. I want to create a list. Option is text, checked, and this is my source. Right? Created. Now, if I check on the drop down, can you see a lot of extra spaces I'm having? Same problem we had with charts. So if I fill it, it will be filled. But if I remove it, that will still be there. So that's static. Now, how can I make it dynamic? What will be the formula? Offset. This is my reference. My row is what? 1, column is 0, and then the height I will use what? Count it. अगर ये जो मेरा whatever this year column is, if this would have been horizontal, I'll be using count in the width. And in that case, my column will be 1, row will be 0. Right? Count A and this. I'll use the same formula over here. So data validate data tab, data validation. I want to have a list validation. Here I will write the formula. So it will, this is my reference. Row is 1, column is 0, and count A. So you can see no extra spaces. If I remove 22 extra spaces. But here you do have extra spaces. So it's static and this is dynamic. This is how you can even do static and dynamic data validation using offset and counting. Clear? Okay. Online guys, any query till this point?
No.
No? So with this, we are done with lookup functions, named ranges, and data validation, dynamic and static. Okay. So, okay. So it's 10:15. Yeah. Okay. This one. Let's say copy this with offset. Yeah, I'll just do that. So this one you understand. Let me transpose this thing. The special, sorry. Paste special. I want to transpose values. Let's say. Okay. So this is what I have. Now, if I want to make it dynamic, I will say offset. This is my reference. What will be my row? 0. Because indexing in offset starts from 0. So row, which row? I'm in the same row, right? So it will be what? 0. Which column? My column is changing. 1. Start from 1. What should be the height? Nothing. Because this is a vertical horizontal data. I'll be using count A where? In the width. So I'll say count A, and this is my width. Done. I can use this if I have data like this. I can use this formula in the list validation. Yeah. Yes. It depends on use case to use case. Here we need the starting of the value to be defined. But when I wanted, let's say, the average of the last 3 months, then I needed to jump to the last value of the column. So then I used count A in the rows. Right? Here I need the entire, basically here I need the count of elements, like height, for the elements to be displayed on the chart. So यहाँ पे logic different हो जाता है अपना. Here I needed to plot all the elements. So that I can check कि I don't want to have blanks in the charts. So I will use count A either in the height or in the width. Just to make it dynamic. Okay. Yeah. So let's say it's around 10:55. Let's have a break and everyone be back by 11:15. Okay. Okay. Now starting with pivot tables. Again, what's the use case? Summarize the data just as array functions. So whatever you are doing whatever analysis you are doing using array functions, most of them can be done with simply click of buttons using pivot tables, right? So to summarize the data. Now, so let me get the data also over here. Let's say this is my data where I have the category products, sales, and then country, date of purchase, and quarter. Okay. Now, how can I create a pivot table? Is there are two ways to go about it. First way is simply what I can do is I can simply select this data table. Let's say I have selected this table, right? Now what I will do, I will say insert, and I have an option over here, pivot table. Once first I select the data, and if I go to insert and select pivot table, so you can see my table range is already selected, right? And it is freezed. Now I have an option whether you want to create a pivot table in the new worksheet or in the existing worksheet. If you say in the existing worksheet, that means in the same sheet, you can give a reference of the cell and the pivot table will be created over here. Clear? But let's say I don't want to do that. I want to create in the new worksheet and I will say, okay, pivot table is created, right? This is one way to create the pivot table. Second way is, let's say I want to create a pivot table over here again. Let's say I want to create a pivot table over here in this cell, right? In this sheet. I will go to insert, I will say pivot table. Now what has happened? My existing worksheet ka jo location wala tab that space that is already filled with the address where I want to create the pivot table. Now what I need to select? I need to select the data. पहले क्या किया था? पहले हमने new worksheet existing worksheet में create करना था, तो we need to select the location. Now I am first after selecting the location or the cell, I am saying I want to create a pivot table. So I need to specify the data, which data I'm using, right? So I will say this data I'm using, this table, done, and it is freezed. See? So this was created by method 1. This is created using method 2. Pivot table. Clear? How to create pivot tables? Okay. Now, so जब भी हम pivot table create करते हैं, so pivot cache create होता है. What is pivot cache? What is pivot cache? What is a cache? Data stored temporary in the memory or temporary data stored in the RAM. I can say that is a cache, right? So whatever data I'm using to create a pivot table, that is a pivot cache. Okay. Now I have created. So again, now second question is. That's this sheet 2. Question is, how many pivot tables I can create? Yes, guys, how many pivot table I can create? Huh? Is the limitation? So on what it depends? It depends on what key, how many pivot tables I can create.
On the cache?
Depends on the RAM. Depends on the RAM, right? If you have reached to a limit where the RAM is not able to take up the load of creating that pivot table, it won't be created. Either it will hang up or crash down, right? Depends on the RAM. Now, this thing is clear. How many pivot table I can create? Or I can say, again, next question is, see how many pivot cache I can create. Yes. Cache. So cache is something which is, let's say cache is a data which is stored temporarily in the RAM memory. It will delete. It is temporary storage. Like in the memory, in the RAM, in the processing unit, it is for temporary. Like it is not permanent. It's for temporary time. Right. So once I close it, my RAM. Let's say if I close this thing down, and if I'm using some other software or some other task I'm performing, so now my RAM will focus on that thing instead of this data. It will remove it. Because if I keep storing all the data in my RAM for processing, it won't work smoothly, right? So that's a cache. Now the cache for using which the pivot table is created is a pivot cache. Okay, I'll show you that once I create a pivot table. Now, how many pivot cache I can create? Huh? 1. Any other number? How many pivot cache I can create? Depends on the pivot table.
For one pivot table, you can store one pivot cache.
Okay, so I have created 2 pivot tables over here. So how many pivot cache will be there? 2. Any other answer? Depends on the RAM. Yes, that's correct. So I'll say it depends on the data sources and the RAM. So not RAM. RAM is basically that how many pivot tables you can create. So yeah, it depends on the RAM. Let's say how much calculation load it is able to handle. But again, pivot cache, let's say, yeah, RAM can be included over here. RAM. Now, what are data sources? So I have created 2 pivot tables over here, right? So how many pivot cache will be there?
1.
Because data source is same. Even if I create a pivot table where I am not selecting the last row, then my data source is different. So I have created, let's say, 3 pivot tables, but my pivot cache will be how many? 2. So I can have multiple pivot tables. I can create multiple pivot tables using the Same data source. So for those multiple pivot tables, only one pivot cache will be created if my data source is same. Clear? Clear with this point? Clear. Now let's understand the pivot tables. So let's have a category. So I have 4 panes over here. Filters, columns, rows, values. Okay? Let's see what happens when I get this data, this category data in the rows. What is happening? Which pivot table? Okay, it is second one. One second. Let me select this one. Yeah. Category in the rows. What has happened? What is it returning me? Rows, it is returning me what among the category? It is correct. It is returning me the unique categories in the category column. Yes or no? Okay. When I drag this category in the columns, what will happen? It's a categorical variable. What will happen when I drag this category in the columns? Each category will be treated as a column. So each category is a separate column now. When I drag this category in the filters, I can now filter the data using by selecting any category. So if I select beverages and click on OK, the data will be the data for the beverages will be filtered. Clear? Now, in these 3 panes, these are known as panes, P-A-N-E-S. In these 3 one, you can, let's say if you have a category in the filters, then you cannot have category in the rows or columns. But you can have category in the summation values. This is where the calculations are performed. Aggregation is done. Okay. So let's say, let me remove the category from here, filters. And if I say category in the rows and I'm getting, let's say category in the summation values, here I can drag the category column again. By default, for the categorical variable, it is giving me what? Count. The number of records present for the beverages, confections, dairy products, like that. Right? If I drag any continuous variable, let's say sales, it will give me by default what? Sum. So I have the total sales for each of the categories. Now, if you had to do the same thing using array functions, how will you do that? What will be the approach? What will be the approach? No, not directly SUMIF. First, you will copy the category column, right? And then you will paste it. Then you will remove the duplicates. Then you will say SUMIF. In the next column, you will say SUMIF. Then you will select the range, sum range, which is sales from the raw data. Then you will do what? You will select the criteria range, which is category column from the raw data. Then you will select the criteria, which is this, from which you have removed the duplicates. Then you will be able to get this. And you have to do the freezing correctly. Then you will drag this down, and then this summary report will be created. This is how you're going to do it using array functions. And you're able to do it in pivot table by just dragging and dropping it in the panes. Right? So it's that easy doing the analysis with the pivot tables.
Category product sales can be dragged down to 4 of the columns itself. It can be on rows.
Yes. Yes.
It does not have a foundation.
No. So category can be dragged, but it can be at a time, can be present in any categorical column, can be present or any column, I can say, can be present in any one of the single pane over here among these 3 panes at a time. एक साथ तीनों नहीं present होंगे, एक में ही present होगा. जैसे category if rows में present है, it cannot be in filters and it cannot be in columns, but it can be in the summation values. Okay, so then this is, let's say I've got what? Total sales for each of the categories. Again, next pivot table I want to get, let's say, I want to understand category wise sales across the quarters, right? So I will say category in the rows and let's say sales in the values, and let me get quarter in the rows only. Okay, now understand what will happen. I'm getting quarter in the rows. What? No, I'm not filtering out what I'm getting over here. Right? For each category, I'm getting the sales divided among the quarters. Right? This is one way. This is long table. Right? Or which one is a better view to look at? I can drag the quarter into columns. What will happen? It will be a cross tab. So if I drag quarter into the columns, see, which one is better to look at? This one. It's a cross tab now. I'm able to see each categories. It's the same analysis. I'm able to see each categories. In fact, this is a better analysis. I can say among the quarter one, which category has performed better, or among each of the quarters, which category has performed least and highest, and what are the sales for each of the categories across the quarters. Clear? Clear with this part? Now, one more thing. Do not copy and paste the pivot tables, because what will happen is there will be a point, like it may happen anytime, that all of your pivot tables, which are from the same pivot cache, will become blank. And then you have to redo everything. Okay? So it has happened with me twice or thrice. In order to complete the class early, I have copied this, pasted it, and performed some other analysis, which is incorrect. That's a problem with the pivot table. It may become blank, it may not. But with me, it has happened twice now that my entire analysis has gone blank. Like pivot tables data is blank. So every time what you will be doing is you will be inserting a new pivot table. Okay, so again, pivot table 3.
People will also be working on the same cache.
Yes, cache will be same, but you need to insert a new pivot table. You cannot copy and paste it. You can copy and paste it, but again, if I can show you that, let's say if I have that, what is the issue usually? Probably December of Feb. Let me see if I have that over here. This won't open up because this is class 6 going on. Check. Not here. Just maybe during the weekday. So anyways, not able to find that sheet. Currently not able to find that. But yeah, it just becomes blank. This thing will become blank. You will still have the variables in the panes, but it will become blank. Okay. So let's say this is a cross tab. This is how you can create the cross tab. Now let's say for each of the country, if you want to filter the same thing, so you can drag country into the filters. And let's say now I want to see only for India, the data only for the India. So this is the data only for the India. Clear? Okay. So clear with the use case of the panes over here, when to use filters, when to use columns, when to use rows, and when to use summation values. Now let's discuss about the calculations in pivot tables. Okay. Let me insert a new pivot table, and let's say this is the data I have.
You selected all the columns or all the tables?
Entire data. Okay. Now let me get again category in the rows and sales in the summation values. This is by default sum. If you want to take average, min, max, that can also be done. So simply right click, and then you can say show, or sorry, summarize value by, you can summarize by count, average, max, min, product, whatever you want to take. Let's say I want to by average. So this is the average sales for each of the categories. If I want to understand what is the minimum of the maximum sales for each of the categories, I can track sales again in the summation values. By default, it is sum of sales. Right click, summarize values by, let's say, max. So this is what max of sales of each of the categories. Clear? So these are the default calculations, like the basic calculations you have over here. Sum, count, average, max, min. Just simply select the value, right click, summarize how you want to summarize your data, continuous variable, and you can check any of the options over here. Let me insert again. Yes, yes. Again, let me get the category in the rows and sales in the values. Now, what I want to do is, I want to calculate the percentage distribution of sales across each of the categories, right? I want to calculate what percentages. So simply select the value, right click. You have an option over here, show value as. Currently, it is no calculation. I want what? Percentage. Percentage of grand total. It is showing me the percentage distribution of sales across the categories. Clear? Let me try. Distribution of sales. See, these calculations you are able to perform very quickly with just click of buttons and pivot tables, but it will take you some time to perform the same calculation using array functions. अगर आपको ये array function से perform करना हो तो कैसे करते? How will you perform this using the array functions? Again, copy the category, paste it, remove the duplicates. Then you will do what? You will say sum if, right? Get the total sales for each of the categories. Then you will take the total of all the categories, sum. Then you will create one more column, let's say, where you will say total sales of each category divided by the overall sales. Then you are going to get the percentage, which you are simply getting in pivot table just with click of buttons. So this is percentage distribution of sales across each of the categories. Let me insert again. See, यहाँ पे, in this case, let me insert again pivot table. Let's say again I'm getting the category in the rows, and now I'm getting the quarter in the columns, and I'm getting the sales in the summation values. So this is giving me the sales of each category in each quarter, right? Or across all the quarters, I can say. Now I'll select a value, I'll say right click, and I will say show value as. And if I say percentage of grand total, okay, what will happen? This is a cross tab. My grand total, whatever value was my grand total, it will become 100%. And these are what? Percentage with respect to the grand total, right? And this is what we were getting earlier. Percentage distribution of each of the categories, right? Now this is what? Percentage distribution of all the categories across each quarter. Clear? So this is, I have done percentage of grand total, right? So I'll, let me again show values, no calculation. Now what will I do? I am saying instead of percentage of grand total, I am taking percentage of column total. What will happen? Each column will become what? 100%. Now this is giving me what? Analysis. I am able to see what I'm able to see. I am able to see what? Percentage distribution of sales of each category in quarter one specifically. So whatever the total sales of quarter one was, that is 100%. And among that 100%, what is the percentage distribution of each of the category? So this is the same analysis I'm doing for each of the quarters separately, which I have got using what? Percentage of column total. If I take percentage of row total, what will happen? My analysis will change. So no calculation again. Show value as, and I'm saying percentage of row total. If I do that, my each row is what? 100%. That means if I consider the analysis of it, my each category total sales is considered as 100%. And I'm checking over a period of time, what is the distribution of sales? Right? Over a period of time, I'm checking what is the distribution of sales in beverages, in confections, dairy products, seafood, whatever that is. So each category's total sales is considered as what? 100%. So it depends on the analysis, what analysis you are performing. Accordingly, you will pick up your calculations. What below grand total? This one? Which one you're talking about? This one. So this is giving you the overall distribution of sales of all the categories in each quarter. Okay. So clear with this percentage of grand total, percentage of column total, and percentage of row total, right? Okay. See here, if I do percentage of grand total or percentage of column total, it will be same because my grand total is also this one, this value, and this column total also. Okay. So let me now insert one more pivot table. Insert. Let me get the categories, let me get the sales, and let me get the quarters again, okay, in the columns. Right click, show value as. So we have checked this one. Now I have an option which is percentage of. Okay, I'll check this. So यहाँ पे you can decide what is your base field and what is your base item. Okay, so base field I have only two options because I have two variables, quarter and category. So I'm saying that my base field is, let's say, category. Okay, and my base item is beverages. What has happened over here? So okay, my base field is category and my base item is beverages. Okay, so the beverages sales is considered as what? 100% in each quarter. And all the percentage calculation is done with respect to what? Beverages total sales. Because beverages total sales in each quarter is considered as what? 100%. Clear? So here it won't make sense in terms of analysis. So what I can do is, let's say, if I want to see key, so show value as percentage of, and I'm saying the category in base field should be quarter. And let's say quarter one should be my base item. Calculate the percentage with respect to quarter one for each of the categories. So quarter one is 100%. Whatever sales happened for each of the category, that is 100% in quarter one. Now from quarter, if I see in quarter two, we basically increased the sales by 10% with respect to quarter one. Quarter three had an increase of 17% in sales with respect to quarter one. So if you want to check the percentage growth, I can say with respect to any particular quarter, you can use this option, percentage of. Again, let me get the category, let me get the sales, okay? And let me get the quarter. So earlier what I did is percentage of quarter one, right? I'm saying not quarter one. I want to calculate what? I want to calculate percentage growth of each category with respect to quarters. Like what is the growth from quarter two to quarter one to quarter two? Then what is the growth from quarter two to quarter three to quarter four, right? So I'm not saying just select any of the quarter and with respect to that quarter, calculate the percentages. Now I'm selecting an option over here, which is previous. Basically consider the previous quarter to calculate the percentage. It's previous, and I'm saying okay. What is happening? Earlier, I'm getting the so if I see quarter three, sales increased by 17% with respect to quarter one. But since I have checked the option of previous now, so it is returning me what? Quarter two का तो same ही रहेगा. Quarter two sales increased by 10% with respect to quarter one. Quarter three sales increased by 6%. Sorry, decreased by 4% with respect to quarter two. And quarter four sales decreased by 8% with respect to quarter three. Basically, with respect to previous quarter. Clear? So quarter one is considered as 100% over here because see, if you like to calculate the growth, if you have joined a company, that's in the first year, nobody will be able to analyze your performance because they don't have the data for that. You always need a previous year data. So if I say for quarter one, there is no previous quarter data. So that is why it will be 100% in this case. So this was regarding the percentage of. Let me insert one more pivot table over here. Category in the rows and sales in the values, and again quarter in the columns. Now, if I say percentage of parent row total, right? I'm selecting this option. How this is working? Percentage of parent row total is working as what? It is working similarly to this one. Percentage of column total. Well, I don't have that. But this is same as what? Percentage of column total, right? Just the name has changed. And if I say show value as percentage of parent column total, it is same as what? Percentage of row total. Okay. Now let's. What I will do, quarter, I have quarter. What will I do now? I will track country in the columns above quarter. Now see what I'm getting. I have selected what? Percentage of. See, I get the same. I'll get the same output even with percentage of row total because this is my grand total, and I've selected what percentage of column total over parent column total. What is the option that I've selected? Right click, show value as percentage of parent column total. If I make it percentage of row total, it will be same. No difference. Both the options are same, but just that I have added one more level in the columns. Now I am seeing what? I am seeing in each country the distribution of what? Sales of each category across all the quarters. This is at the country level for each category across all the quarters. So this is what? This is the total percentage of sales for the beverages category in Argentina. If I want to see how this 11% is distributed across the quarters, this is how it is distributed. Similarly, I can do the same thing for each of the country. Clear? Now, instead of what I can do is, if I take percentage of, which is parent row total, which is same as what? Percentage of column total. If I do that. Now, what it is giving me? It is giving me in each country, what is the distribution of sales for each of the categories in each of the quarters. And this is giving me total percentage distribution of beverages category sales in Argentina among all the categories. So your analysis changes when you change your calculations. Clear with this part? And this is giving me what? Grand total में यहाँ पे क्या आ रहा है? What is this giving me? What? Correct. It is giving me the overall distribution of the sales of each of the categories. It is not bind to any country over here. let me insert another pivot table. So now you understand how much time it will take you to perform these calculations using Excel functions, right? Table range data. Again, category, sales, and let me get quarter. So show value as what option I have. So we have percentage of parent total. So which field you want to consider as a base field? That's I want to consider as what as my base field. And every quarter is considered as what, 100%. If I consider base field as category, then all the categories will be 100%. So what this means is that I need each category is 100% or each quarter is 100%. So I need a level to this, a hierarchy level. So I can say country. Let me get country. Right. So now instead of this, what will I do? Percentage of parent total, I will take country. Okay. So each country is considered as what? So this calculation is similar to this one, but this one was giving me what? Overall distribution of category in Argentina compared to all other countries, right? But now here the sales of each category in Argentina is considered as what? 100%. That is the only difference. And how this 100% is distributed. So you can say each country is considered as a separate window. That's the only difference. Okay?
क्या हुआ?
Guys, please be on
हाँ,
mute.
खा लेता.
So since each country is 100%, you don't need a grand total. Doesn't make any sense. Let me insert. Yeah. What kind of questions?
I remember one of
So they will give you the analysis only, question analysis, until the not theory. Basically, they will give you the questions and the data, and you need to perform the analysis like this. If I asked you, I want to see the sales distribution, percentage distribution of sales across each quarter or across each country. So accordingly, you need to click the calculations. So insert pivot table again. This data. So let me get the category again, sales over here. And what next option I have over here is difference from. Okay? So this will make sense when you have, let's say, quarter. Okay? The sum of sales, if I take show value as difference from. Now, whether you want to take difference from quarter 1 or quarter 2 or quarter 3, from which value you want to take the difference. So let's say I want to understand from quarter 1, what is the difference? So these are the numbers increased in sales. And quarter 3 may, with respect to quarter 1, it has decreased, and quarter 4 with respect to quarter 1 has decreased, right? These are the numbers. But let's say I want to see the percentage distribution, not percentage. This is different from quarter 1. But if I want to understand, let's say not from quarter 1, from previous quarter. So I will select the option of previous over here. And done. So now this is with respect to quarter 3, and this is respect to with quarter. So this quarter 3 is with respect to quarter 2, and quarter 4 numbers are with respect to quarter 3. But let's say I want to calculate the percentage distribution, percentage growth with respect to previous quarter. So I will take percentage difference from, again, if I want to know the percentage calculation with respect to quarter 1, so I will select quarter 1. If I say previous, it will give me the percentage distribution or percentage growth with respect to previous quarter, right? Because there's no previous quarter to, with respect to quarter 1. How this calculation is performed, let's understand. Okay? Let's say I go to this and I say no calculation. Let me copy the data. Copy the data. And over here I am saying pay special as values. I am saying the percentage distribution from previous, right? What are the numbers I'm getting? Show value as percentage difference from. I am saying previous. These are the numbers I'm getting. Now let's get the same. You will do this in Excel. First, you will get the total sales. Then you say that's it. It will be null, obviously. So quarter 2 minus quarter 1 sales divided by quarter 1. That's 25% approximately. I convert that into the percentage and same. So it is what? Percentage growth with respect to previous quarter, how much the growth has happened in terms of percentage. So this is how you can even check each of the formula, like each of the calculations, how they're performing the calculations in the backend. So this is percentage growth over a period of time. And done. And that's again, get the category sales. Then I have running total. Okay, let me get the quarter also. If I want to calculate the running total, what is running total? Running total. Cumulative frequency. What happens in cumulative frequency? The last value will be the total value. So the number as it is, first number will be as it is, and the second for quarter 2 it will be what? Previous value plus current value, right? And this number is what? Total sales. So I can achieve the same thing in pivot table using show value as, and I can say running total. Base field is quarter, only one column I have. See, same. I can even perform the percentage. Okay, what is the percentage of running total? So last quarter 4 will be what? 100%. And here you can even calculate the percentage. So it will be what? This value divided by this value, and I will freeze it. Here. So these calculations will ease out your task a lot. Done this one, then that's a category again, sales, and what else I have over here? Like, then you can even rank smallest to largest to smallest, right? Then I have this index. What is this index? Let me tell you. So I have categories and I have, let's say, country. So country in the columns I'm taking. Okay. This is the cross tab I'm having. Now what will I do is, okay, let me make a copy of it. Control C, so that I can show you the calculations with special values. Okay. Now, I will calculate the index value for each of the products, okay, in each of the countries. So right click and I will go to show value as, and I will say index. Okay. So it is showing me the index value for each of the products categories in each of the country, right? Okay. Now how this calculation is performed, how this index value is calculated, let's check for the beverages in Argentina, 0.87. So index equals to, I will say sell value into, it will be what? Grand total. This is 1. Now I will divide this. This is how the calculation is done. I will divide this with sell value row total into sell value grand column total. Clear with the formula? Suppose I want to calculate for Argentina and beverages, right? The index value. So this is my sell value into what? Grand total. This is my grand total. I need to divide this by what? So I need to divide this. Now this cell value is, what is row total? This one, 293904 into this cell value column total. This is the column total. Then what's the value? 0.8762, same as this. Okay. Now this index value is compared within the row and within the column. Okay. I'll tell you what that means. If index value greater than 1, so that is considered of high importance. If index value less than 1, then it will be considered of low importance. Okay? Not of that high importance. This is what you need to remember in case of index value. Now, higher sales does not necessarily mean higher index value. Okay? So if I check over here, so let's say if I talk about at the row level, beverages. Okay? Now, whichever country is having index value greater than 1, that means this product, beverages, is of high importance in that particular country. Now, what company can do is, company can do targeted marketing. Either it can increase the somehow do better in these countries, or can discontinue their operations for this particular category in these countries, which will reduce their cost, and can focus only the high important countries which are focusing on this beverages category. Here, this is one analysis. Other analysis could be, so if I compare it within the column, so I can see in Argentina which of the category, well, it's the same thing, which of the categories are performing good or are considered of high importance. So this one, and this one. So wines and beer, meat and poultry. Then we have grains and cerelac or cereals, dairy products, confections. Yeah, these are the products which are of high importance in Argentina. So company can basically focus on these only, which will reduce their cost. So this is how index value is helping in performing the analysis. Now let's say if I talk about a category which has lower sales. So let's say this one, 8568. This is for France and this is for seafood. So let me check seafood. India, let's say if we talk about India. This is of lower importance, or let's say 0.93, which is of dairy grain, India में grain. ठीक है, but if I talk 23,000, right? At 9825 dairy products. What was the value for the grains? Yeah, see. If I talk about in India, the grains is 23,276 sales. Let's say whatever it is amount or something, it is 9825 for the dairy products. But if I check for the index value, for the grains, it is less than 1, and for the dairy product, it is greater than 1. So higher sales does not necessarily mean that you will have a higher index value. Clear? Again, the thumb rule is if the value is greater than 1, then that product in that country is of high importance. If the value is less than 1, then that product in that country is of low importance.
What is the
Range of what?
index?
Index,
Like it can go above 1, so like
generally it will be like up. It should be like, I haven't seen the range, not sure about the range, but it may go above, like it depends on the what importance it is giving. So we generally have this cutoff greater than 1 and less than 1. That's it. Right? It may go above 2 also. That is not a problem. For example, it is near to 1.9, right? It can go above 2, that means that is of very high importance, right? But we just consider the criteria greater than 1, high importance, less than 1, low importance. So it is kind of giving relative weights to the products for each of the countries. Clear? Guys, everyone clear with this? So these were the calculations that we have in the pivot table. Any queries till this point? Online guys, any query till this point in the pivot tables? Online guys, let me know. Offline guys, clear? Now, even what you can do is you can add a calculated field in a pivot table also. So that means at a pivot table, insert and pivot table, table range. So calculated field, let's say I have the category in the rows and sales in the values. And let's say I have a count. So what I can do, let's say I want to add a column, which is let's say profit, which is 10% of the amount, sales amount. Okay. So I will go to this pivot table analyze option. I have a section over here, field items and sets. And I will say calculated field. Give the name as profit. So criteria I'm setting for the profit is what? 10% of 0.1 into sales. Insert field. Right? Here. And I will add this. So this is my profit in the beverages category, which is 10% of the sales. So what I have done, I have added a calculated field. I have added an extra column by performing some calculation. Okay? This is what calculated field is.
the pivot table is dynamic.
Dynamic in the sense?
Like जो डेटा सोर्स है, अगर डेटा सोर्स में हमने नई वैल्यू डाल दी,
Yeah.
तो पिवट टेबल अपने आप रिफ्रेश होगा कि हमें खुद रिफ्रेश करना पड़ेगा नया वाला?
Okay. In that case, what you need to do is, this was my data source. So instead of selecting till the last arrow, till the last row, I will select the entire sheet. Right? What I will do, this, and then entire sheet. So in that case, it is dynamic. Okay? And the dynamic how? So then comes the option of refresh and refresh all. Once you refresh, that data will be updated. So when you do refresh, when you click a particular pivot table and when you do refresh, what will happen is only that pivot cache will be updated. Or I will say only those pivot tables will be updated which belong to the same pivot cache or which have the same pivot cache. For example, there are two pivot tables. I have created three pivot tables. Two pivot tables have the same pivot cache, and the third one is having a different pivot cache. So in the overall, I have two pivot caches. When I do refresh, so when I click on this pivot table, in the home tab somewhere, yeah, in the pivot table analyze, I have this option, refresh and refresh all. When I click on refresh, so I have selected this pivot table. So whatever the pivot cache of this pivot table is, that pivot cache will be refreshed. if that pivot cache is refreshed, all those pivot tables which are created using that pivot cache, all those pivot tables will be refreshed. But only that pivot cache will be refreshed. But if I click on refresh all the pivot caches which are there will be refreshed. That means all the pivot tables will be refreshed. Clear? Refresh all. Refreshes all the pivot caches. So this is the difference between refresh and refresh all. Refresh will refresh only the particular pivot cache to which that pivot table belongs, and refresh all will refresh all the pivot caches. That means all the pivot tables in short. Clear? This was pivot tables, and then we can also create groups and bins using pivot tables. Okay? Groups and bins. Now, what is a group? Group can be created on categorical and continuous variable.
तो सर ये pivot table पे तो अपना black show कर मतलब अगर हम वो dynamic बनाने की कोशिश करें
ब्लैंक शो नहीं करेगा.
तो आपने जो बताया blank किया यहाँ पे blank show कर रहा है
So you have done a category as blank.
वैसे से
हाँ, तो what it is returning me? Others.
यहाँ पे blank show कर रहा है white and clear के नीचे blank और यहाँ पे blank show कर रहा है और मैंने उसको नया वैल्यू भी ऐड करने की कोशिश करी तो मैंने इंडिया में मतलब ऐड
Refresh किया.
हाँ रिफ्रेश किया वो तो लिख दिया बट यहाँ पे blank show कर रहा है
Let me check that time. Okay, I'm getting this blank. So what I can do is I can filter this blank out. Yeah, so then it will be dynamic. No? So any other category or data which is added, that will be refreshed if it won't be blank. Right? That's how it's dynamic. Yeah, so group can be created on a categorical and continuous variable, both. Okay. Now, group may or may not have fixed interval size, because these are created on basis of logical reasoning, right? As these are created based on logical reasoning. Okay. For example, what can be the examples for a group? If I talk about the categorical variable, yes, guys. So I can say, let's say I have a variable. Okay? Let's say which is table, chair, TV, fridge, and I have like something else I have. So I can categorize table into what? Furniture category, and TV also, chair also, and TV and fridge will go into electronics. So what I'm doing over here, I'm categorizing my data based on some logic. I'm creating groups based on some logical reasoning. That's a categorical variable. If I talk about continuous variable, let's say if I'm analyzing a bank data, right? So I will create my groups on the age column as per my logical reasoning, right? So age column may I can have the groups between, let's say, I will start from 18 to, let's say, basically 26 probably. These are the strugglers, and I can say 27 to 40, like they are high on spend. 41 to 55 are very crucial when it comes to purchase or like purchasing high amount. And I can say greater than 56, 55, the retired ones. And accordingly, I can offer them plans, right? The discounts, whatever. But here, what is happening? Ideally, point is what? I'm creating groups based on some logical reasoning, right? And these does not have what? Fixed interval. So these are known as groups. And what is a bin? Groups or bins, right? Bins. Bins have fixed interval size. Are created only for continuous variables and have fixed interval size. Okay. So what can be the example for a pin? Guys? An example for a pin?
Age.
Only continuous. Pins cannot be written on categorical variable. Age. Population. How? I mean, it depends on what we want to create. So, like any continuous variable I take, let's say if I take, let's say price bracket, for example. So, pins are created basically, I'm taking price. Okay? So, let's say price is from, let's say 2.2 lakh to, let's say it is in lakhs. So, I don't have to write L again. So, I am saying 2 to 2, 3, 4. So, 2 to 4. Right? 2 to 4. Then I'm taking 5 to 7. Then I'm taking 5 to 7. Then I'm taking 9 to 11. So these are what? These are bins which are created. And now I can get the frequency count. Let's say what's the number of customers who are purchasing cars in this price bracket, or the number of cars sold in this price bracket, 12, in this 10, in this 5 or 4. Right? So in such cases, you can create bins. Bins have what? Equal frequency interval size or equal classes. Clear? Okay. Now, how can I create bins in using pivot table? Let's see that. So let me insert. So let's start with groups first. Groups. Let me get category and let me get sales. Now, these groups can be used to basically minimize the number of categories in a particular variable. Now, let's say ki, seafood and dairy products are lower in terms of sales amount, right? So I would like to combine these two into a single category. So I will select this, I will select this, and I will select seafood, and I will say right click, and I will say group. Okay? Group. Yeah. Data, do you want to replace it? Yes. What happened? Where is the data? Okay. So again, I have to basically, let me delete this category, this table. How can you delete this table is pivot table analyze. Oh, sorry, this, which option we have? Help, somewhere over here. Yeah, pivot table analyze, go to the select and then click on entire pivot table. So this entire pivot table will be selected. If it is not getting deleted, then press delete. It will be deleted. Okay. So let me create a, let's say data underscore 1. Maybe creating a problem when I had multiple references. G6, let me insert. So let's say dairy products and seafood. Right click, group. Okay. So this is name is given what? Group 1. I will name it as others. Now this I have plus minus buttons. So what I will say expand collapse, and I will say collapse entire field. Yeah. So earlier I had how many categories? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Now I have how many? 8. 8. Because a new category is created, which is others, which has these two categories: dairy products and seafood. So I had 9 categories. I had 9 categories. I had 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I had 8. Okay? So I will have how many? 7. I will have 7. Now, so it's if you have multiple categories which are having lower sales number, you can combine all of these into a single category. Right? This is how you can reduce the number of categories. This is one thing. Now, second thing is, so you can see over here I have expand and collapse buttons. Right? I can remove these also. So now I won't be able to expand or collapse. Okay. Let's say this is you have closed this section by mistake. You want to get it back. Click on the pivot table. You're not getting it. Right. So you have to select this option in the pivot table analyze field list. You'll be able to get the field list over here. So this is how you can basically create groups. Let me add the plus minus buttons. You can create groups using categorical variable, right? But in case of continuous also, you have to do it manually. You have to select multiple values and then you have to group into a single value. Okay? Or single, you can give a single group name. Let's say if I consider, again, let me insert the table, data 1. And okay. So let me get, let's say, sales, whatever, sales in the rows. Okay? So I can basically select multiple these and I can right click and I can say group, and these all are grouped into one. So like these, I can have multiple, I can get multiple groups for the continuous also. Clear? Let me remove this for now. Okay. And let's say how you can create pins. Okay. So again, okay, and I'm getting, let's say, sales in the rows. Okay. Now right click, just don't select, right click, and I should be able to group. Cannot group that selection. Not happening, but this is the way you're going to do it. So, pivot table. Why is it not grouping?
Multiple papers are
That will then it will create a group. I don't want to create a group. I'm creating a bin. I don't know why is it not working, but this is the way it works. So if I do this, if I group it, it will create a group. But I don't want to create a group. Yeah. Control, right click, left. So it will be done. Okay. It is creating an issue over here, but this is how you're going to create. 1 second. Let me just open this file. So let me just have the sales over here and Control C. In new sheet, I'm just adding it. Okay. And I'm getting a pivot table over here only. So insert pivot table, existing worksheet. This is where I want to create. Done. I want to have sales in the rows and right click. And if I say group, see, now it is happening. It was some issue with the sheet also. Simply don't make a selection. Just select this plus symbol, will be able to see right click and you click on group. Okay. If you don't make any selection, more than one selection, it will create a bin group. Now, what is the interval size you want to keep? So let's say I want to keep interval size of 500. Okay. And this is my minimum value. This is my maximum value. Done. So see, these are the number of bins which are created, which has the fixed interval size of 500. Yeah. Clear? So this is how you can create bins. And then get the count of the other columns in each of the bins. Bins can only be created with numeric values. Both. Numeric data, yes. That's logical grouping.
You can create bins of multiple columns at the same time, or individually you have to create it.
Individually, you have to create it. Well, multiple columns at the same time means you can select the entire data and then using a single column, you can create the pin.
Only numeric data.
Yes, only numeric data. Pins is only for numeric data. Clear? So with this, we are done with pivot table, and there's a homework for you guys. What you're going to do is this thing. You will be completing these questions. Okay? These 4 questions you need to complete. Let me give you some hint, top 5 वगैरह, how you can get top 5 and all of these things in pivot table. So let's say you're talking about top 5, right? So let's say if I get category and if I get sales, I want to get top 5 categories in terms of sales. Simply select the category, right click, and you have options over here, filter, which we have seen, top 10, and similarly, on basis of what you want to get it, by percent, sum or items. I want top 10 items or top 5 items based on sales. This will return me what? Top 5 items, yes. So all these options you have in pivot table also. These are top 5 categories in terms of sales. Clear? So these are pretty easy questions over here in the module. Just complete these, okay, as a homework. And also, I'll be sharing, let's do this thing today only, this question. Again, this is a conditional formatting question. Yeah. And these are the 3 tasks. Let's discuss about task 1. Highlight all rows where the product is fast car. Okay? So I need to highlight the rows. Now what I need to do? Conditional formatting, manage rule, new rule, formula, because I need to highlight the entire row, and the output of the formula should be Boolean. And I need to keep track of the freezing also. So equals to, what should be equals to fast car? This cell. And I need to remove dollar from where? From where?
From row.
Equals to, in double quotes, I can say fast car. And I will format with green color, fill greenish color, done. Okay, apply, done. So here all the records are highlighted where the product is fast car. Okay. Task 2. Let me get this. Highlight all rows where the net sales are below the 20% of the target. This is my target. So what is the 20% sales below the target? 20% below target. How can I get that? 20% below target, 20% above target. Tell me. What is my target? This. So this will be considered as 100%. So if I want 20% below target, that means 80% of the target. So here I will say equals to 0.8 into what? Target value? Done. 120. If I want 20% above target, so this is 100%. I want 20% above target, which is what? 100 plus 20%, which is 1.2. So 1.2 into target. Okay. Now what the question is saying, I need to highlight only those rows where the sales is below 20% of the target. That is below 1,20,000. Now what will be the formula? This cell, remove the dollar from the row. Less than बोला है ना? Less than 0.8 into this. And this has to be freezed. This is already freezed. Format it with, let's say, this color. Done. Okay. Apply. Done. So all the rows are highlighted where the sales is below 20% of the target value. Right? Okay.
नहीं समझ आया ये.
Okay. So what is the question saying? Vidhi?
Highlight all rows where net sales are below 20% of the target.
What is
तो
my
क्वेश्चन समझने में प्रॉब्लम हो रही है.
What is my target?
1,50,000.
Okay. What is 20% of the target?
1,50,000 into 20 upon 100.
So I can simply say कि 0.2 into target. This will give me 20%. 30,000, right?
Right.
So it is saying कि highlight all rows जहाँ पे जो net sales है वो 20% से कम है target value की. So what is the 20% मतलब 20% से कम है target value, right? So what is my target value? 150. What is 20%? 30. 1,20,000. So now I question is saying कि जो भी values net sales less than 1,20,000 है उनको highlight करो.
ठीक है.
Can you just show the syntax again in conditional formatting?
Sorry.
Can you show the syntax again when we go to conditional formatting?
Yeah, it's just a simple formula. 1 second. Yeah, this is the formula. So instead of subtracting, let's say, see, अगर मेरे को 80% value चाहिए, so I can directly get the 80%, which is 20% of the target, 20% less of the target. अगर वो target का 20% less चाहिए, that means my target is 100%.
सर ये फॉर्मूला नहीं समझ में आया.
ये वाला,
हाँ सर.
ये वाला
Right.
part clear है, 80% वाला.
जी सर वो तो क्लियर है.
So I am saying कि whichever value in the net sales is less than this value, उनको highlight कर दो.
मेरे को ना क्वेश्चन समझने में प्रॉब्लम लग रही है अभी भी, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन जैसे लिखा हुआ है हाईलाइट ऑल रोज वेयर नेट सेल्स आर बिलो 20% ऑफ द टारगेट. अब हमारा जो टारगेट है उसके 20% से जो बिलो है, तो
Correct.
टारगेट का 20% 30,000 है, तो हमें 30,000 से नीचे वाले ही देखना चाहिए जो इसमें कोई है नहीं वैसे. बट एज पर द क्वेश्चन का मतलब तो यही बन रहा है.
Where net sales are below 20% of the
आप क्वेश्चन का मीनिंग, हाँ अगर आप क्वेश्चन का एग्जैक्ट मीनिंग देखोगे, क्योंकि मतलब हाईलाइट ऑल द रोज वेयर नेट सेल्स आर बिलो 20% ऑफ द टारगेट, मतलब जो 20% से नीचे है टारगेट के. ठीक है, मतलब
If I tell you, if I ask you, Vidhi, what is the 20% above the target? Highlight the values which are 20% above the target.
तो जो भी 30,000 से ऊपर होंगे, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन का मतलब तो ये निकला 20% ऑफ द टारगेट. उसका
Correct.
मतलब तो यही हो ना, टारगेट का जो 20% है उससे बिलो जितनी भी हमारे पास नेट सेल्स
नहीं,
हैं,
नहीं.
या तो क्वेश्चन आई थिंक देयर इज समथिंग ऑफ,
Question is
क्योंकि वो
correct.
पढ़ने में ही नहीं आ रहा.
हाँ, question is correct. आप ना एकदम exact meaning ले रहे हो इसका. So when I'm saying कि net sales are below 20% of the target, ठीक है? So that means कि target क्या है? Target तो 100% होगा ना? Is 100%. What is 20% below the target? Is how much? 80%.
Again the question should be 20% below the target. It's below 20% of the target is changing the meaning of the sentence. हम तो वैसे ही solution निकालेंगे. Suppose अभी तो आप
Adding on to what Vidhi is saying, कि आपने अभी समझाया तो you know what exactly means, but
Exactly.
when we get such questions, we'll get.
हम तो इंग्लिश के as per the perception of English हम तो वैसे ही ट्रांसलेट करेंगे ना जो उसमें लिखा है.
Highlight all rows where net sales are below 20% of the target.
It should be 20% below the target.
Okay, let's say. ठीक है.
ग्रामेटिक मतलब अगर हम इसे ग्रामेटिकली मतलब एज पर द इंग्लिश हम इसका अगर ट्रांसलेशन कर रहे हैं ना, तो वो क्वेश्चन ही ऑफ लग रहा है, उसका मीनिंग ही कुछ और निकल रहा है.
Correct. But sometimes you can also understand the question by looking at the data. ठीक है?
Yeah,
हाँ
but
वो तो
if we
कॉमन
get-
सेंस हम लगा रहे हैं, लेकिन अगर सपोज एक भी डेटा में 30,000 से कम कुछ भी होता, तो भी आप अगर पूछना कुछ और चाह रहे हो, अगर हम आंसर दे रहे हैं उसके हिसाब से, तो आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग अलग है, क्योंकि आपको पता है आपने क्वेश्चन क्या सेट किया है ना,
Correct.
आपने क्या दिमाग में रख के किया. बट हम जो पढ़ रहे हैं हमारे लिए तो फिर क्वेश्चन अलग हो जा रहा है ना. बिल्कुल.
ठीक है. अब आगे समझ में?
नाउ इट्स गुड.
So this thing is done. So next thing we have is this task 3.
सर वो फॉर्मेट वाला सीन.
Format वाला
हाँ वही.
समझ में नहीं आया मुझे. क्या क्वेश्चन है?
अरे सर वो जो आप बिलो 20% और अबव था, उसके बाद वो फॉर्मेट में कैसे किए वो एक बार समझा दो.
कुछ नहीं किया. सिंपली ये सेलेक्ट किया, कंडीशन फॉर्मेटिंग, मैनेज रूल्स, एडिट रूल, फॉर्मेट एंड फिल द कलर. कलर फिल किया था बस. Now guys, last question of the day. Highlight all rows जहाँ पे सेल्समैन मिसिंग है सेकंड डेटा सेट में. ठीक है? So this is my first डेटा सेट जिसको मेरे को हाईलाइट करना है. This is my second data set. Now tell me, how can I highlight salesman जो मिसिंग है सेकंड डेटा सेट में? पहले बताओ हाईलाइट क्या करना है. अगर मैं मैन्युअली भी करता हूँ इसको तो क्या हाईलाइट करूंगा? एक्सेप्ट जोसेफ एंड लॉरेंस, राइट? एवरीथिंग विल बी हाईलाइटेड इन दिस फर्स्ट डेटा सेट. तो कैसे करेंगे? Okay. So do one thing. This question will be a homework. Try it. I'll take it up on Thursday. Let's see what all logics you guys apply. ठीक है? I'll take this on Thursday. I'll give you the question. I'll give you the answer. Answer is hint दे देता हूँ कि you have to make use of lookup function. You can make use of lookup functions. You can make use of array function to highlight. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you. Just you should highlight the correct answers. ठीक है? So it's a homework. I'll take this up on Thursday. Any queries till this point? Online guys, any query till this point? Yes. मैं फिर कंडीशन चेंज कर दूंगा यहाँ से फिर. It has to be dynamic.